You are watching a clip from the Sports and Sorts podcast.
So the Saints fans had started a big rally, and they got a bunch of fans together to protest against the Super Bowl. Like not watch the Super Bowl, just get together and do something else, I guess. The Saints need to get over this. They need to get it over. Bad calls happen. Jeffrey Mayer, he helped the Yankees beat the Orioles. Eric Gregg, extremely wide strike zone, calling out Fred McGriff in a pitch in the NLCS that was a foot outside, and he was calling it all day, but still, they were like a foot outside. Jerry Rice's fumble, that was ruled down when he clearly fumbled. The Niners went on to win. Jordan pushing Russell way out of the way to give the Bulls their 6th title. How about Kent Herbeck pulling Ron Gant off the bag? How about the tuck rule? Jim Joyce ruining a perfectly, a perfect game by making a terrible call at first. It goes on and on and on. You got to get over it. You got to move past it. It is over. Shut up, suit up next year, and play football.
All right. So a couple things. I don't particularly have a problem with Saints fans being mad. First of all, that wound is still relatively fresh. It's 2 weeks ago.
And bad calls happen.
I know. You've said that. Thank you.
It happens all the time. You can't complain about it that much.
But it was only 2 weeks ago. I would say in a year from now we won't be talking about that. I mean, Saints fans eventually will move on, but I think
it'll happen
at
the beginning of football season next year. It'll happen.
I think you have to give Saints fans time to grieve. The other look, in some ways, their protest was actually somewhat legitimized by the fact that the team that beat them went out and scored 3 points last night. And I remember, again, turning to my father-in-law last night and being like, I'll tell you what, I don't know that the Saints necessarily would have won this game, but I can tell you one thing, they would have put up more than 3 points. I have no doubt about that, and that's a guarantee. And the reason why is because Drew Brees has been there and done that, and he can play in a big game. And Jared Goff had nerves last night. He was not ready for that moment. I mean, you could see it on his face. You could see when a guy is nervous, when the moment is probably a little too big for him. He's a Super Bowl neophyte. Drew Brees has won a Super Bowl. Drew Brees and that Saints offense, which is, it's certainly more balanced than the Rams because apparently the Rams and their all-pro running back don't have a good running game. Kamara and Ingram would have been able, I think, to move the ball a little bit better on it. I'm sorry, you can't tell me that the Saints would not have put up a better game. You just can't. If not outright won. I mean, I'm not, look.
I don't know because they didn't get there.
They didn't get there, and I don't blame. But look, I don't blame Saints fans for being mad. I really don't. It wasn't just a blown call. It was the blown call of blown calls. It was horrible. It's so bad. It was such a and it was such a blown call though that now the NFL is considering, and they're probably going to do it, they're going to put in some kind of measure to prevent that kind of crap from happening.
Well, yeah, that's
how
all
bad
you
of
can
a blown
do.
call
You have to go to more robots or replaying more, doing more replays.
Well,
they didn't have that in place, so it's over. You can't,
let me ask you this: if that doesn't happen and that blown call doesn't take place, do you think that that's happening this offseason? No.
Well, no. Yeah, something has to happen for things to change.
Yeah, and it was that bad. It was egregious. You can't blame Saints fans. They were robbed.
Right.
And don't give me that crap about how the Saints had their opportunities to win that game.
They did.
As I said before, NFL games, like all sports events, ebb and flow. Just because you get up on a team big early doesn't mean you're going to win that game. Doesn't mean that you automatically just get to apply the foot to the throat. Sports events flow. It's like life. They ebb and flow.
Right.
Things happen. If you get up big on a team, you have to expect them to come back.
Yeah. Well,
for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Teams don't get blown out.
And they did. They came back and they beat the Saints.
They came back and they beat the Saints. So that what I'm saying though is that you can't just sit there and say, "Well, the Saints had this opportunity.
They did
13-0, and they had that opportunity." The bottom line is the Saints were going to win that game. They were going to win that game because Lutz was going to kick a field goal. It would have been good. They would have moved on. I can't fault Saints fans.
You don't know that. There was
mad.
A lot of field goals missed this year. There's a lot that you can say. You can say if. The fact is, they had more opportunities. They did not score.
And look at the representation we got in the Super Bowl because of it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's what happens.
Matters to the Saints and their fans.
Yeah,
look, it's hard. Look. I want to see you make this argument when something like this happens to the Bills.
I have no problem doing that.
Well,
I have been adamant about this all across. I have always said.
Yeah, but you've been adamant about it.
Human error.
You're not a Saints fan.
Human error. No, not just this.
Everything.
Everything across the board. Everything. When it happens against the Yankees with bad calls, I just say it doesn't matter because
how many
it's
bad
human
calls
error.
against the Yankees do you remember? If you're an Orioles fan, okay, look, if you're not over 1996 as an Orioles fan, I'll give you that one. Like at some point you do need to move on. But this happened 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I'm sorry, Saints fans get a little bit of a pass with me right now.
It doesn't matter. They are all. It doesn't matter if with the Red Sox, with the Yankees, with anybody. It doesn't matter if it's human error.
What to you is the proper grieving time for that? How long?
Grieve as much as you want. I don't care about that.
Let them protest. Why can't let them? Who's it really impacting? Why is it bothering you that they're out there protesting? Why do you care?
Move on. It's a game.
You're asking. We're talking about, does it sound like a game? This is what we do. We're talking about sports.
Right.
We don't just treat it like a game.
It is a game. And the problem is that they can't move on. Like, you need to move on and get past this. They will move on. Saints fans will move on. They're just not quite ready to do it yet. I don't blame them. We'll see. I think it's absolutely. This has already been discussed by the NFL to make a rule change. You don't need to protest it further. What are you going to do? What else is it going to accomplish?
I think the other thing that's happening here is that for Saints fans, and I can kind of understand this, there is a bit of a cumulative effect from the last 2 years. So you had the year before that and the way that game ended, that divisional game ended against the Vikings in Minnesota, and then you had this on top of it. I mean, I think it's been a rough last couple of endings to the years.
That was their fault completely.
Very brutal. That one was on them, but I mean, this one was. I'm sorry, I can't. But I still think in all my years of watching sports, and in all my years of watching NFL playoff football, I believe that is one of the worst non-calls I've ever seen. It will pop into my head quite a bit. It was really bad. Look, it was a once in a lifetime bad call. Quite frankly, it really was. I mean, it really was. And I think the thing that makes it kind of worse too is that you have NFL replay to right wrongs in terms of possessions and stuff like that, but you don't have anything in place, although we probably will, to right wrongs that weren't called. I mean, look, if baseball at the time of the Jeffrey Mayer incident obviously did not have replay, but I guarantee you if they did, that's not a home run. That's fan interference.
Yeah.
That's going to be fan interference.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, we have I guess I'm actually kind of just more irritated at the NFL. Look, I understand human error. But if you're going to implement something like replay, I mean, at the beginning, they probably should have said you can challenge certain things, but you could also challenge non-calls. And if you get it wrong, they got to figure. I mean, look, I think they should put something in place because that was an absolute game. That was a potential season-changing call for the Saints. The Saints very well could have been Super Bowl champions if not for that non-call. So they have to do something, and I think they need to figure out a way to make the penalty. What did I hear? I heard something good the other day that said if you get the call wrong, like if you challenge it and it's still up, and they review it and they say, no, we're not throwing a penalty there. That was not a penalty. We can't. There's not enough evidence to. Then you need to get penalized. And I think that one guy said it should be like a 15-yarder, and one guy said it should be like a 5-yarder. I think it should be in the middle. I think it should be like a 10-yard penalty, because that will, depending on the time of the game, and that will make you think twice about making a challenge like that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the Saints in that scenario. I believe the Saints would have won that game. Do we know for sure? Of course not. But I can't. It's been 2 weeks. I just can't. I'm gonna give Saints fans a pass.
But they got what they already wanted, which is to get something moving in the right direction.
Saints fans wanted to win that game.
Well, I know, but they didn't get that. You can't change that.
They were the victims that are causing a rule change.
You can't change it. But the NFL had already come out and said that they're going to look at it and review it and change how things are done. But they're still protesting. It's just there's nothing. You can't accomplish anything from that. Anyway, let's move on to the Super Bowl commercial.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You have just watched a clip from Sports and Sorts, where we go live every Monday and Saturday on YouTube. Thanks for watching.